Hashem Yahshua, by Hashem Rukakodah, Shalom to 144,000 rest of the elect out there. Shalom to all. Real quick, let's see where the Spirit takes me. Genesis chapter 15 has nothing to do with the American slave trade. So I just put this on. This is live. Somebody called in. I guess he's the guy that called in is an Israelite, and his stance is that Genesis 15, the vision that Abraham had about the 400 years, is talking about America. It's not talking about America that's played out. It's talking about Mizraim, Egypt.
For coming up with that.
So the ship was literal as well. It was a transatlantic slave trade.
But Egypt wasn't literal.
Egypt wasn't literal. Have we gone back to Egypt though?
Yeah.
Even though,
Yeah.
have we
Yes.
gone?
Yes.
No. Since we got out of Egypt, have we gone back to ship?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you familiar?
Are you familiar with the Antiquities of the Jews by Flavius Josephus?
I gotta look into that.
He's the first century.
That's not the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28:68. First of all, they didn't go in the ships. They took a trade route known as the Via Mara, which means way of the sea, which was the Mediterranean, which was as they were going south into Egypt. This is during the time period of 70 AD. As they were going down south from Jerusalem, from Palestine into Egypt, to their right side was the Mediterranean, which that was the east of them. So on the east of them, or Palestine, was the Mediterranean. They did not get into ships. And another thing, when you go back into the Josephus, or go into the history, it was Israelite boys 17 years and above. They didn't say anything about women. So that's what they use. That's not the fulfillment of Israelites going back into Egypt, because they did not go back in ships. They went through they went through a trade route called the Via Mara.
Tree Jew, Jew historian who sided with the Romans after the war and everything. But
We're talking about Flavius Josephus, which was a slave under the house of the Flavian dynasty, and he was an Israelite. He was a Jake, black person. This is why this is why it's a complete waste of time arguing with Christians. They're gonna come with the same regurgitated BS.
wrote about Titus, Emperor Titus, after they destroyed Jerusalem, sending Israelites to Egypt on ships.
They never sent them on ships. Do the research. They did not send them on ships. They walked down in Egypt.
It's in his writings from the first century.
Now, could there have been a ship here and there? But they walked down into Egypt. Matter of fact, let me do this. I don't think this is going to come up, but let me do this. Try to do this quick. Bear me for a minute. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to Google, as you can see. I hate this. Let me just come back. Okay, here it is. Okay, Jews taken into Egypt, slave ship 70 AD. Jews taken into Egypt 70 AD. Jews taken into slave ships in Egypt 70 AD. Give me a second here. Let me change this up. Put 70. $70. A period D Jews taken into slave ships 70 AD. Let's see what comes up. The biblical Exodus describes the Israelites and sisters as being enslaved in Egypt. Give me a second. I went through this before. I even went to Josephus. Okay. In 70 AD, after the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, some captured Jews were indeed transported to Egypt by ship. It says by ship, but that's not in Josephus. I have to look into that. Likely as part of a large slave trade, fulfilling a prophecy during Deuteronomy 28:68, while the biblical account of the Exodus includes a period of Israelite slavery in Egypt. The historical evidence for this event is debated. The 70 AD event, however, is a documented instance of Jews being taken as captives to Egypt by ships. So let me ask this. Jews taken into slave ships. I'm sorry, let me do this. Into slavery. Slavery. In 70 AD by the via Mara. I know that's not the right way to spell it, but let's see what comes up. Okay, I think I did spell it right. Okay, so Jew slavery in 70 AD. There is no historical evidence suggesting a widespread enslavement of Jews in Egypt in 70 AD under a figure named Via Mara. However, there are aspects of the claim that warrant historical consideration. Nothing on ships here. I put in the word ship as a question because that's what they teach. Oh, Deuteronomy 28:68 is when the Israelites, no, it was the boys. Via Mara. slavery in Jews during the Roman period. Following the first Jewish-Roman War and the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, many Jews were captured and sold into slavery by the Romans. These guys said that the Jews, Deuteronomy 28, said they tried to sell themselves, but no one would buy them. So right here it's saying that they were sold. Some of these captives were sent to various parts of the Roman Empire, including Egypt, which was part of the empire. Roman rule and anti-Jewish sentiment in Alexandria. The idea of Jews being enslaved in Egypt is a central narrative in the Torah's description. The enslavement of the Israelites in ancient Egypt many centuries before the Roman period. While this narrative is important for understanding Jewish history and identity, it is distinct from events that occurred in 70 AD. In summary, while Jews were enslaved by the Romans in 70 AD, and some may have been sent to Egypt, there is no evidence of a systematic enslavement of Jews in Egypt by a via Mara at that time. The Jewish experience in Egypt during the period. Give me a second. Let me do this. Because it said, I read the information, I can go back to it, where it said that they were sold into slavery. Deuteronomy 28, according to you guys, say they tried to sell themselves, but no one would buy them. So that kills Deuteronomy, the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28:68 taking place in 70 AD, because they were actually sold. Let me try this. Trade route. I spelled Mara wrong. Maris, via Maris. Via Maris. Way of Horus was an ancient trade route dating bronze, like Northern Empire. What was the Via Maris trade route? The Via Maris, Latin for way of the sea. Why you say way of Horus? Doesn't make sense. Way of the sea, via way Maris sea, which was the Mediterranean. Trade route that connected Egypt with Syria, Anatolia, and Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia was on the other side over here. Syria was north of Palestine. Egypt, it followed the Mediterranean coast. That's the coast, and is significant for its role in facilitating trade and culture exchange between powerful ancient civilizations. So they were going down the coast. That's the coast. Wooden ships. So let me do this. Maris. Maris. Let me see, via trade in Egypt. Jews, male Jews, Jews, $17 and above, enslaved. Is it enslaved or enslaved? Enslaved. Okay, enslaved. $70 AD. Let's see what comes up. Did you mean via Maris trade in Egypt, males, Jews, 17 and above, enslaved, 70 AD. Let me click on this. Yes, following the Roman suppression of the first Jewish-Roman war and the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD, a significant number of Jews, including males 17 and older, were enslaved by the Romans. And one of the places that they took them to was Egypt, which was a province of the Roman Empire. The Roman transported thousands of these enslaved individuals to various parts of the Roman Empire, including Egypt. Some sources indicate that thousands of enslaved Jews were sent to toil in the mines of Egypt. So they were sold. They didn't sell. They were selling ourselves. No. According to eyewitnesses to history, the Via Maris, a major Roman trade route connecting Egypt, Syria, and Palestine to the eastern Mediterranean. They did not go on ships. Mediterranean would have been one potential avenue for their transport, facilitating both the movement of goods and people within the empire. And earlier I came across the word coast. Coast is a dry land, not the sea. So they did not go into ships. Matter of fact, let me do this. Okay, ships. Right here, ships. Where's the word ship at? Doesn't say nothing about ships. But it did say 70. Let me see. Deuteronomy 20 fulfillment, 70 AD, where the Hebrews captured slaves were often the result of military expeditions. The Bible informs us of another possibility, Joseph being sold into slavery. And like I said, the trade route was the off the coast of the Mediterranean, or the Via Maris. I don't know why he said it meant the way of Horus. No, Maris is Latin for sea, mariner, marine, maritime. So Deuteronomy, during the time of 70 AD, when they enslaved young Israelite males from the ages of 17 and older, were enslaved by the Romans, and they were sent into many places, and one of the places was the mines of Egypt. They were sold. They were sold. The Via Maris, a major Roman trade route connecting Egypt, Syria, and so forth. So that's some bullshit, man. So, anyway, shalom. On to the next.